Let's talk Tanya for the 9th of Iyar of a leap year. In yesterday's Tanya, we spoke about the incredible unity with God and the holiness that we experience and that we achieve every single time we do a mitzvah. And we ended off with the question, that might all be true, but I don't feel that at all. And that could be a distressing thought. And this thought and idea, and maybe even the distress, is echoed by one of the prophets. His name was Asaph. And in chapter 73 of the Tehillim, of the Psalms, he writes as follows. This is a verse. He says, Va'ani ba'ar v'lo ye'eda. I am a fool. I don't understand. I don't appreciate. Behemais hayisi imach. I'm like an animal with you. Va'ani tamid imach. And I am always constantly with you. And Dr. Rebbe explains that Asaph is speaking on behalf of all the Jewish people, especially now in exile, when we have lowly and coarse bodies and animal souls, and we don't feel and experience the holiness and the unity, which happens every single time we do a mitzvah. And Asaph says, we are fools. Va'ani bar v'lo ye'eda. We are fools. We don't appreciate. We don't connect. We don't understand. Behemais, we are like animals. I think this is an example we've given in a past segment. Everyone goes to, they go to France, and they go to visit the Louvre, and people are walking past the Mona Lisa, and they're oohing and eyeing, and then you have a little dog, a poodle, that walks by, and it looks at the Mona Lisa. It experiences and understands and appreciates nothing. We're the same way. We're doing a mitzvah. We're like an animal. We're like a dog. We're like a cat. We have no clue of what's going on. But nevertheless, what does he say? Behemais hayisi imach. Yes, we are like animals, but we're with you. Va'ani tamid imach, and we're always with you. Meaning, what Asaph is saying is, the fact that we are fools and we don't appreciate and that we can't, and we don't appreciate the connection. The fact that we are actually like animals doesn't change the fact that we are behemais hayisi imach. We're animals together with you, connected to God. Va'ani tamid imach, I am always connected to you. In other words, our lack of appreciation for what's going on doesn't in any which way impact the actual experience of what is happening at the moment. And with this, we've pretty much concluded this chapter 46, where we talk about this reflective love. And I want to take a moment to go back to the beginning of this chapter. A few days ago, when we introduced this chapter, we mentioned that this love, this reflective love, which is discussed in this chapter, is the most accessible and the easiest love for God to achieve. The words Dr. Rebbe used were Karev hadavar mi'oid mi'oid, very, very accessible. Why is this love so much easier and so much more accessible than any of the loves that we've spoken about in the previous chapters? The Rebbe explains that every one of the loves that we've talked about up until this point, before this chapter, we've talked about, for those who recall, we talked about the Ava Rabba, this tremendous love, which is a gift from above, and the Avas Olam, love, which comes about through meditation. We've talked about 2 levels of hybrid love. Then we've even talked about a love that comes from compassion. But the common denominator in all of these loves is that I need to somehow be worthy of the love. I need to rise to that level to which I can experience and feel that love. The holier I am, the more refined I am, the more transparent I am to God, the easier it is for me to arrive at that love. But enter the love of our chapter, reflective love, and it's very different. We've talked the entire time about the imbalance over here. The greater the imbalance, the greater the love. Meaning that when entity A showers entity B with love, the greater entity A is, and the more removed that entity is from entity B, the greater the love that the receiving entity will have for the benefactor of that love. That's the whole example we gave earlier on in this chapter about the king who showers his love and affection upon a lowlife who is in the garbage dump. And the same thing in our relationship with God. This reflective love, the greater the imbalance, the greater the love. To put that in simple words, what that means is, the lower I am, the more coarse I am, the more unspiritual I am, the more I lack sensitivity towards God, then when I contemplate God's love for me, actually, that causes me to have an even greater love for God. This is the only love that Alter Rebbe describes in Tanya, where it's not that the holier I am, the more this love is accessible. It's the opposite. The lowlier I am, the more accessible this love is for me. With this, we have concluded this chapter, but not yet the topic. We've talked about the idea of reflective love, reflecting on the idea that God took us out of Egypt, brought us close to Him, entered into this incredibly close relationship with Him, and how that should arouse our love for Him. But we still have one question left. After all, God took us out of Egypt. That was more than 3,300 years ago. A lot of time has passed since then. Is it possible for me to still generate that same level and degree of love and passion for God for something that happened so long ago? That is the topic that we will be discussing, God willing, in tomorrow's Tanya.